The story of Ruth and Naomi. Once upon a time, back in the days when judges ruled Israel, there was a famine in the land. A man named Elimelech from Bethlehem left home to live in Moab, hoping for a better life. He took his wife, Naomi, and their 2 sons. They settled in Moab. The economic situation was much better compared to where they came from. Their 2 sons grew up and married 2 women from Moab, Orpah and Ruth. Life was still difficult, but Naomi, their mother-in-law, found joy in her family. But then, tragedy struck. Elimelech, Naomi's husband, was the first to pass away. Then, just a few years later, both of Naomi's sons died too. Naomi was left alone, without her husband and without her sons. She was heartbroken, and she felt like God had turned his back on her. Naomi grieved together with her 2 childless daughters-in-law. They remained in Moab for 10 years. And she heard that there was no more famine in her country, Bethlehem. She decided to go back. But she realized that this journey would be hard, and she couldn't bear to drag her daughters-in-law along with her. After all, they were young and could still get married and build new lives in Moab. After a short while on the road, Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back to your own families. May God give you each a new husband and family." Orpah kissed Naomi reluctantly goodbye and returned to her people. But Ruth refused to leave Naomi's side. Ruth looked Naomi in the eye and said these powerful words, "Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." When Naomi saw that Ruth had her mind set about going with her, she gave in. The 2 journeyed together. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town welcomed them with joy, but Naomi told them, "Don't call me Naomi, call me bitter. The Lord has dealt me a bitter blow. I left here full, and God brought me back empty-handed." When they arrived, it was the start of the barley harvest. Naomi and Ruth were poor, and Ruth knew they needed food to survive. So, she decided to go to the fields and pick up the leftover grain. It was hard work, but Ruth was determined. It so happened that Naomi had a relative by marriage, a man prominent and rich, connected with her husband's family. His name was Boaz. Boaz noticed Ruth. He saw her hard work, and he heard about her loyalty and kindness to Naomi. Boaz was moved by her courage, and he respected her. He asked his servants to give Ruth special treatment. They let her take extra food from the field to take home. Boaz continued to show Ruth favor. Naomi, seeing what was happening, she thought that since Boaz was a relative, someone who could help them in a time of need, Naomi, ever wise, told Ruth that this might be the opportunity they were waiting for. She gave Ruth some advice. "Go to Boaz. Let him know you're interested, and he will know what to do." Ruth did as Naomi told her. She went to Boaz to the threshing floor and put her mother-in-law's plan into action. She laid down at Boaz's feet to signal her availability for marriage, as was the custom to protect widows. Even though Boaz was startled to wake up and see a woman at his feet, he was touched by her honesty and her respect, and he promised to help. But there was one small obstacle. There was a closer relative who had the first right to marry Ruth. Boaz promised to take care of it, and the next day, he went to the city gate to settle the matter. The story of Ruth and Naomi reminds us that no matter how dark the journey may seem, God has a bigger picture of how things will end. Ruth and Boaz had a son named Obed, and Naomi's heart was filled with joy. She had a family again, and little did she know, Obed would grow up to have a son named Jesse, who would become the father of David, the great King David and a great ancestor of Jesus Christ.